Always gotta wait till they bring the thunder. I love that. That's my favorite part of the whole webcast we do.
It
Hey,
really sets the
everybody.
vibe.
It does. Like it needs to be actually, we need to get Ashley to make it even louder, I think that would be cool. Wow. So like it's been a minute for both the Storm Watch and for like the three of us actually virtually seeing each other too. And so, folks who are regular watchers, listeners, whatever you all do to intake our content, you're going to notice there's a tile missing. Glenn, despite my best efforts, is still alive in Texas. The sharks I sent to kill him while he was diving did not actually succeed in their mission. So, actually, the thing is lasers. I got to put lasers on him next time. That'll be fine then.
Wow, that's dark.
The rest of us are very glad that Glenn's alive. Just want to say
I
that.
miss Glenn.
And so did the sharks. Yes, they actually did miss him. It's terrible, horrible. So everyone knows Kimber. Say hey, Kimber. And Andrew Askins is joining us. Andrew, do a brief intro because we're going to talk a little bit more about who you are later.
Sure. Hi, I'm Andrew. I'm a product manager at Gray Noise. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about some of the
Product
cool, nerdy
manager,
shit
like
I'm
one
doing.
of the best product managers ever, like the two of the best product managers here ever. This is, oh man, you guys are all too modest. So, as I mentioned, it's been a minute, and one reason why it's been a minute is, let's get over to, we've all been on vacation, sort of on vacation. And mine was a bit more kind of like this, although not nearly as fun, or as outdoorsy and energetic as Chevy Chase's might have been. But if you all don't mind, Gray Knights had a mandatory 2-week shutdown. We all were forced to leave. We almost shut Slack down completely, so we couldn't log back on, which thankfully we did not do. And I'm just curious, Kimber, did you do anything fun on your not so horrible lampoon vacation?
I actually went to Zion and I got to do one of the things
Wait,
that's
the
been on my
Matrix
bucket
Zion,
list.
like the Matrix, like the one that. Oh,
No, the point was to get out of
The
the
outdoors.
computers,
Touch
that's
the
not
grass.
fun.
outdoors.
Okay, all
I
right.
got to do the Narrows, and it's this hike where you hike up a river into a canyon, and you get to see a bunch of slot canyons. And you know, we didn't make it into some really far stuff, but we did go, and I'm counting it checked off my bucket list. I'm very happy with my decisions.
That is awesome. And Mr. Askins, did you do anything cool on your summer vacation?
Yeah, I had a great time. Super, super freaking relaxed. Also, just all of my friends who I told I had that our entire company had 2 weeks off were like extremely angry and also wanted a lot of jealousy floating around. It's definitely one of the coolest perks we do here. Yeah, I spent the first week just chilling up on Lake Huron with my girlfriend and her family, and then the second week had no plans, which is
Nice.
something I haven't done in a very long time. Is like have time off with nothing planned, and it was wonderful. I did end up squeezing in a short 2-day backpacking trip at the tail end of that, which was a lot of fun. So did do something with that second week, and
Yeah.
did a loop up in sort of the middle of I'm in Michigan, so did a loop up in the middle of the state, picked some fresh raspberries. There were like raspberries all along the trail, just like wild raspberries. So picked a bunch of wild raspberries and did some hiking.
Wow.
I was looking at a lot. It seems like a lot of our people just really got outdoors, got
Yeah.
outside.
I
Glenn
feel
swam
like
with the sharks.
so many tech people that I talk to have this fantasy of like never touching a computer again and moving to a farm with like having a couple goats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the trope is woodworking, right?
Yeah, and
Woodworking.
Matt on my team, Matt Lehman on my team, he uses the phrase "touch grass." I think almost every day he's yelling, not yelling, but imploring us all to go out and touch some grass. Which I'll mention this later. If you're in Vegas, maybe don't do that, and you'll find out why. So I don't want. I will only talk about the good parts of my vacation because lots of things converge to make it like not nearly as fun as all yours. First, the heat was like I don't go out in the heat. Like if it's above 85, like yeah, I don't go outside. So like I wasn't outside. And I live in vacation land, so I kind of vacation all year round. It doesn't really matter. But for my teammates who know that I've been suffering from long COVID for a while now, I actually did a 45-minute Peloton ride for the first time
Hey, nice,
in
Bob.
almost 5 months. So so yes, my vacation is putting stress on my body. It's fine. It's cool. I also did a lot of coding, but to your point about our mandatory 2 week break, I had to speak at had to I had the privilege to speak at the New York Art Conference last week, and I was talking to all the folks there, and they were asking me what was going on. I'm like, yeah, this is the tail end of my 2 week mandatory vacation, company wide, and everybody was mad jealous as well too. Like everybody, and everyone listening and watching should be too. Literally best company, like literally best team. So you should come work for us if we have job openings. It'd be great. All right, so we're going to dive into this because no one wants to hear more about my vacation, and I would like to just kick things off. And it's a pretty light agenda for today, everybody, just because it's been like 2 weeks and we haven't really been around. I wanted to bring Move It, yes, because of course you need to bring Move It back into like the limelight. There's if you these are 2 links, and all these are in the show notes, so don't worry about not being able to read them behind me. The thing I wanted to point out is Move It is still a thing. And even though we're not seeing it in gray noise much anymore, I expect to see a couple inventory scans kicking up maybe in Q3 and Q4. What's happening with Move It is like the attackers are just diving into it and using it in ransomware attacks because there's now 5,000 CVEs for it, Kimber, I think. Something like 5,000. Yeah. So I was talking with some researcher friends of mine. Brett Callow is one of them, works for Emisoft, a really solid security researcher. And when I was poking at this, Brett's been tracking all of the ransomware events that have been coming out as a result of Move It. I don't think anyone really understands the scope and how bad this truly is. So Brett's agreed to come on to Stormwatch in the next couple of weeks. So look for that. Hopefully be able to give a really good story. I don't want to talk about that, so I don't want to detract from that like kind of breakdown we're going to do later. But Kimber, I was curious, like, why do you think we're seeing so many new CV? Because there are a lot of CVs. There were new ones already, I think, in
Yeah,
the last 2 weeks. Like, why are we seeing
right.
like all of this focus and research, like, and efforts on Move It?
I think that one of the reasons we're seeing this is perhaps because it hasn't been looked at before. It's one of those softwares that uh, has a critical function. So you're seeing it used in government entities and things like that. So while we're not necessarily seeing CVEs based out of like the ransomware gangs that are using us, like they're not suddenly pivoting to a new technique that they're using. And that's getting the CVEs. I think what we're seeing actually is the researchers taking a look at Move It itself and just tearing it apart because it's kind of an easy target at this point. Is what I'm thinking. Um, we see this happen pretty often when softwares get in the limelight,
Yeah,
so to say, that aren't, like Outlook or some of those bigger things. These smaller softwares, you'll see a whole bunch of CVEs come through after a bigger breach,
gotcha.
um, and then rack up a whole bunch of CVEs, get the attention they deserve.
It's just that it seems to me that this might be, and like I'm not, this isn't a detraction against anyone's security research and software vulnerability research chops, but I have a feeling it's got to be because I haven't poked at this, and I know Remy on our team probably has dug into it a bit more than he probably should have because he just likes poking at things. But it seems like this is an easier bit of software to like, go through the source and see what the patch drifts are, and then look for other potential areas to kind of go after. Just basically, it has been looked at before, so it's a target-rich environment, and then it's also easy to find what you want to look for, like what you're looking for inside the actual software. So that combination seems to be pretty deadly. And I think as you guys have covered before, like there's a lot of other similar software out there. So I don't expect this might be like the software area of focus over the next 6 months for attackers to go after, just because it seems to be a very target-rich environment.
Yeah, and I know people are kind of like, really, yet another one? Like, oh my God, what a piece of shit software. And I'm not crazy about that attitude because it's like, no, like this is a critical software. And thank
Yeah.
God that people are taking a look at it and like figuring this stuff out so that it can't like get used in some way that we don't know about until it's too late, like some of these bigger breaches that have happened. And then I know on our team, like in particular, Grey Noise isn't going to see all of these, but we do. Howdy is looking at the generic Move It tracker that we have, so we're
Yep.
keeping an eye on like what the scanning looks like if anything really like blows up.
Yeah, and just to extend what you said, like every single piece of software, every single one, unless it's like print hello world or something like that, has vulnerabilities in it. Any single
Yes.
any piece of software that's complex enough to be useful has vulnerabilities in it. And this just wasn't on anyone's radar. It may have been on attackers' radar. People may have been using this the other similar vulnerabilities or things that we don't even know about yet. Attackers could have been using this forever and just covered their tracks really well. So the fact that we have good security researchers digging into it, discovering vulnerabilities, they're getting patched. This is a good cycle. This is what we want to have happen to keep everybody safe. It's just sad that there has to be some carnage along the way as a result of that too, just because it just takes a lot of time to react to these things.
I've been shocked at how many victims there have been. Victim seems like a strong word, but I mean that is what
It's
it
a bit,
is,
yeah, no, it's
right?
what it is. Yeah. I think as Brett will tell us whenever we can get him on. One of the sadder areas for me on this one, it's similar to SolarWinds back in the day, which is service providers use Move It as like a service or they manage it for a number of places, a number of customers they have, and they're getting compromised, and then their customers are getting compromised too. So it's that whole cascade event of second and third party and fourth party risk. Um, and I don't think it's going to stop. I just think and especially since it's summer and schools are out, so they're not focusing on it. They're going to come back to maybe seeing their entire principal environment taken down. I don't know. It's hopefully this is going to get better, but Brett will depress us even more with a comprehensive set of stats on this in the coming weeks. So that'd be great.
I mean, for a bit of levity, one of the main groups exploiting this and wrecking the government on it a little bit is CLOP. Product manager Andrew Askins, would you like to tell us?
What is
CLOP
that? Yeah,
fun
because
fact?
we learned this cool fact today that I did not know before.
So I was reading up on some of the links that Bob dropped and that he'll drop in the show notes later, and didn't realize that CLOP stands for bedbug, or translates to bedbug. The Russian translates to bedbug, which is just
Bed bugs are horrible.
It just makes my skin crawl.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, they should.
It makes your skin crawl. It makes I think it's kind of cute.
What?
Bed
What?
bugs are not cute. Bed
No
bugs are
way.
really, really not cute.
Oh, well,
Just
no, they're
ask
not.
anyone in New York that has an apartment building, and they'll tell you bed bugs are not adorable things at all. Sorry.
Fair
Potentially
enough.
dumb question for maybe there's some folks in the audience who, like me, don't immediately understand why we won't be seeing more from the Move It tags. Could you all elaborate on that a little bit?
Kimber, go for it.
Oh dang. Okay.
I could too. I just figured you are the smart one of the three of us, so yeah, you should probably be the one that discusses it.
Me, I'm scrolling over really quick. So CVEs have these vectors in them, right? And those vectors, what is that called? The CP, the CVSS.
Yeah, so in the CVSS, there are basically a number of methods of attack to be able to get in. There's a number of ways to actually get. There are a number of ways to get access to the weakness to then exploit that weakness. Yeah.
Exactly. And so we take a look at those and we're like, does it have the AVN in it? And then we take a look at, and that's the access vector of being the network. And then we take a look at some things and see if our sensors can read it. That's a really oversimplified answer, but basically for gray noise to be able to see a CVE, we kind of go with that base of it has to have an AVN in the vector. So that's the network access vector.
Yeah, at least for now.
There's a bunch of others.
Yeah, at least for now, that's where our limitations are. Which maybe I'll get Andrew to talk a little bit about what the for later might be. And I think secondarily too is we generally a lot of, so this one isn't one of them, but for other ones where authentication is required, we generally, this isn't true for some of them because there are enough password lists out there that people may just replay credentials like we were talking about a few weeks ago with all of the various VPN brute forces that are out there. But for this one, network access is definitely the major reason why it's unauthenticated. So we saw scans for this, but the second reason for it, and I think we mentioned this a couple of shows ago, but it's good to reiterate it. So we will see inventory scans because people are looking to see if this tech is out there. And attackers got really smart, partly because of us. Sorry, everybody. But as a result of them finding things, when they find something that's going to be a pretty permanent service, like a mail service, or even something like this, it's got a domain name, they could tie it to infrastructure. They'll do an inventory scan to find it. and then they will hold off doing another inventory scan for months instead of every couple of weeks like they used to do. So they get to just play with those network spaces that they know where the stuff was deployed. But secondarily with this one, there weren't a lot. There was like thousands of these maybe poked on the internet. This is something that would be mostly should everybody that runs this, do not run it externally if you don't put a VPN in front of it, and put some VPN that hasn't been exploited 3,000 times like Fortinet in front of it. And then but it should be an internal service. And what's happening in a lot of the cases that we're seeing from the stories that I've been reading that Brett's been dropping links on, and you can follow him on any social media out there, their attackers get initial access through a lot of other vectors, and then they poke around on the internal network and they find this, and it's an unauthenticated internal vulnerability that's super easy to exploit because there's like a bazillion exploit for them now. So they can do it after they get into organizations, and a lot of attackers already have footholds in organizations. So this is just one more way for them to see that. So the inventory scan delay is going to be what causes that for us mostly, and we don't have a robust profile for this, so we don't fake like we're being a move it server as well as we possibly could yet. But that's all going to change.
I hope for the future in which we will be able to see more authenticated attacks, because we already know what password lists people are using and trying these things. So it's like pretty trivial there, but yeah, that was the other one that was good to mention, was we don't see authenticated attacks.
So before I go into this one, I'm actually going to switch back to just human mode for a second, because I was going to show you something that's in our visualizer, but the visualizer is in our core platform that we have. And we have two people that are responsible for putting up amazing things into our cool platform, one of whom is Andrew Eskins, who we've asked to be on the show instead of Glenn, maybe permanently. No, sorry. I almost said that. Andrew, so can you talk to us a little bit more about what it means to be a product manager at Grey Noise, and kind of what the areas that you're doing product management over at Grey Noise?
Yeah. So to start with what it means to be a product manager at Grey Noise, for those who aren't familiar with how tech software gets built and developed, product managers like me and Kimber sit at kind of the intersection of tech and the business side of things and the customer user side of things. So our job is to understand what users need and want that maybe we haven't met or the market hasn't met yet, what the business needs and wants, and then what is technically possible. And I lean especially heavily on our awesome engineers for that third piece, and then on our go-to-market team for the business, a lot of the business and strategy and market insight piece, and then talk to a lot of customers for the first piece. And as for what I'm specifically working on, I have been working for the past since like February, I think, with a team of a couple of really smart engineers and a really great designer at Grey Noise, with a lot of support from Morris and Jin and Guillermo, some of our leadership, and from Bob's team, to develop our new sensors. So we are updating our sensor technology, developing a totally new form of sensor. And these new sensors are going to enable us to do a lot of really cool and really interesting things that will essentially help us to get a both more breadth to our data and more depth to our data. So historically, Grey Noise sensors, and Kimber, Bob, jump in here if you all have a better explanation here. But historically, our sensors are really good at obviously detecting noise. That's what we do. But they are lower interaction. So they mostly just listen. They listen on all ports and on multiple protocols, but they just kind of listen with some basic responses that take Bob's team a lot of time and energy to create. And so we want to make our sensors smarter so that we can and higher interaction, so that we can get into some of those more of those inventory scans or inventory lists, so that if people are kind of I don't know, what do you call it? Bob, Kimber, like pre-targeting,
Preceding.
preceding.
Yeah.
Okay. So if they're preceding an attack or a scan or something, we want to get in those lists of technology, and so we want to be higher interaction so that we look more like the technology they're looking for, or actually run the technology they're looking for. So we're moving to a new architecture where the sensor itself, the thing living on the internet, will be pretty small, and it'll basically just forward all the traffic it gets to a central gray noise cloud. And in that cloud environment, we'll be able to run what we're calling personas, which will be real software. Um, and Bob's team, especially Remy, are working with us to develop the list of what personas we will, sort of roll out first, and what personas we want to add in the near future. And that list is really cool and really exciting. Looking at things on like the medium interaction side, we can do some cool stuff. Like, just from what I understand, just having favicons will get you into a lot of these preceded lists. And then doing more high interaction stuff, like maybe a WordPress server with a bunch of vulnerable plugins, or a Microsoft Exchange server. So yeah, one, we're going to be able to expand the personas and software that we're using, and this new architecture will enable that and make it a lot easier to deploy new sensors and deploy new personas, and get more of that depth to our data. But then this architecture will also allow us to start enabling our users to deploy sensors on their networks, whether they're cloud networks or on-prem networks. We'll be able to, give the user just a single bash script that they can run, a single line bash script, and that'll leverage some, common Linux tools like WireGuard to set up the tunnel to the gray noise cloud. So there won't actually be any custom gray noise software running on the user's computer at all. And it'll be super lightweight, super easy to set up. And then they'll be able to, start configuring their sensor to look like whatever they want from the list of personas we provide within the gray noise cloud. So the vulnerable stuff, the hard stuff, the software itself stays in the gray noise cloud. Users will be able to run a single line bash script to set up any spare Linux server they've got sitting on a network as a server, and start tunneling traffic to the cloud. And then they'll have, as a sensor. And so then, in addition to getting more depth to our data, because we'll be responding more like real software or with real software, we'll also start to be able to get more breadth. And we want to encourage people to share their data with others, so that we can, someone on the team throughout like collective defense, collaborative defense, as like this idea, like how can we make each other safer? How can we work together to share what we're seeing so that everybody stays safer and sees things faster? And then there's all sorts of cool stuff we can do with that data and enable users to do with that data. So sorry, that's my long ramble.
I am thrilled that you gave that much information away. I am, because like I like giving sneak previews, and you gave a really awesome sneak preview. For me, just to tie it into the question that you asked earlier about Move It, the inventory scans are a problem, like for everybody that does internet facing honeypots, because once the scans happen and the inventory scans happen, like I said, they don't do it anymore except on the targeted networks that they want to do it on. If we get enough organizations putting them on their networks, their perimeter networks, we actually now pretty much neutralize the utility of doing inventory scans, because we'll find you there too. So it's going to be really great for us to get ahead of those things. The one thing, there's a characteristic, there's many of both for both Kimber and for Askins, that I call him Askins because we have too many Andrews at work. So I'm not using his last name in a pejorative way. I literally can't tell them apart if I just do it at work. they have many you both have many other cool aspects of who you are and how you think and what you do. You both share one really awesome common one, and that is you are like I guess it's two, but they're kind of related. So you're super curious, both of you. Just your curiosity gene is on overload, and as a result of that, you both ask some of the best questions I've ever been asked in my entire life. So if I
Thanks,
could,
Bob.
so if I can impose upon the audience for just a little bit more, I want to ask both of you, how did you go about learning how to ask those good questions? And if there isn't like a specific thing you did and it's just you did enough and it's like, let's say that too. But I'm really, because I want folks to understand like this curiosity gene is probably the single most important gene in cybersecurity, information technology slash life that you could possibly have. And you both have it really well, but you both apply it really well in cyber and to what you do. So like how, so maybe I'll talk to maybe to Kimber first. How did you exercise that gene to be able to ask such great questions, Kimber?
That's so funny. I actually gave a talk on this at St. Con, which is a conference in Utah, and I called the talk "Threat Hunting Like a Scientist" because people wanted to know more about like this thought process that like seemed to just come so naturally to me. And what I came up with was it's just the scientific method. I see a thing, and I'm like, huh, wonder what that's about, and then I have to know. So it's like I think that relentless pursuit of like why does the thing do the thing and like can I make it do the thing is
Gotcha.
is pretty much like the key to it is like never think that you can't figure something out, like never think that you're
Oh, I
too
love
dumb
that.
to figure something out, like
I love
you
that.
can always figure it out or you can at least like ask somebody. I think that's what like it's probably my biggest key to like being curious is like I'm not afraid to ask somebody a question on how something works and
That's
ask, and I
awesome.
know you don't either. You want to
Yeah,
go ahead?
I kind of want to build on that and say that, like, I think you're able to ask better questions the more you understand about the subject matter
Okay.
and the more you like knowledge you build up. And the only way to build up that knowledge at first is just to ask really dumb questions. Bob
No,
likes to
no,
say,
no, no,
I
no,
know,
no.
I know. Bob likes to say there are no
Bob,
dumb questions.
yeah, Bob has this thing at work. I'm like the police on Slack about this. If I catch this, if I smell a hint of it, everyone gets chastised for it. Everybody out there, there is no such thing as a dumb question.
And it's
None.
great to have people like Bob who create that culture and who try to establish that, because at first you are going to ask questions that you're going to feel insecure about
Yeah,
asking. Let
that
me
that
phrase it
that
that way.
that is an okay way of explaining.
Yeah.
That's
You're
100%.
going to feel
Yeah.
insecure about asking questions because you're going to be worried that it's going to reveal how little you know. But the reality is you don't know shit. So
Yeah.
just
We
own that.
all, by the way, we all don't know stuff. We all have knowledge gaps. All
Yeah.
of us, every single one of us.
And then every now and then one starting with just, you know, uh, being confident enough or like embracing the insecurity and just asking the questions that feel dumb. They aren't dumb, but they feel dumb. Starting there and just starting to build up that knowledge. And then the more knowledge you build, the more insightful your questions become. But then also, I would say that sometimes those questions that feel dumb end up being really interesting to the people asking them, because
Mhm.
those people, especially some of the folks we have at Grey Noise, are such experts that they've forgotten what the beginner feels like, and they've
Yep.
forgotten what the kind of novice, how the novice thinks. And so sometimes those questions that feel dumb actually end up bringing a new insight that is useful or interesting. Um,
I agree. I think that like knowing what kind of environments that you do well in to ask questions like is a big part of it too. Like if you don't have an interest in fishing at all in the slightest, then you're not going to have any questions about fishing. Like no matter what, you're just going to be staring at it being like, this is silly, I don't get it. But if you have an interest in like how networking works, you're going to be asking questions left and right, or you're going to be staring at like, some little thing and you're going to be like, what's that? And like you have to be willing to say, oh, I don't know what this is, and be curious about figuring it out. But I think that's the other side of it for me is I went through a lot of things that I wasn't at all interested in and got really insecure. And then I was like, oh, I was just bored. Like,
Mm-hmm. That is so cool.
yeah.
Actually, to riff from that, so thank you both for being open and honest. Like they did not know I was going to ask that question, everybody. So thank you for doing that. And I just also want to say that every time that you have either of you or both of you has asked specifically me questions about something, and I'll get interviewed a lot by Andrew specifically to go through a new thing we're going to do, like these sensor things. More often than not, in any given session, all the questions Andrew asks and the progression that you've asked me, because I can talk to you. I'm not talking about. I can talk to you right here. Have caused me to go, oh wow, I didn't think about connecting that to those two dots. And you've basically asked questions in such a way that have enabled me to connect dots that I've never been able to, or that wouldn't have thought of connecting before. And Kimber's done that. We have like a weekly or biweekly jam session with the labs team and Kimber, because Kimber's still part of labs, even though she doesn't think she is. And and Kimber will often cause one of the team members to go, oh my, and then like they run away and go figure out something with that and build off of it. So
Kimber does that to me too, for the record. Kimber.
Yeah, no, it's so like those questions are really inspiring, because like, again, there's lots of stuff that we just don't know, and I'm going to riff from that because
Professional nerd sniping is what I call it.
so there's something I don't know. Well, I do know something. So, okay, it's been a couple weeks. Really haven't. There are no new tags because of that. I think I mentioned that already. Or if I didn't, we were on vacation. I'm sort of in charge of there being tags, and when we're all told to be off from work for not do work for 2 weeks, unless the sky was going to fall, which it did not happen in the past 2 weeks, despite something we'll talk about at the end. I'm like, no, Remy, you're not making a tag, because I caught him twice being online, which meant I was online, but I had reasons, so don't talk to me about that. And so I was checking around today to see if there's anything cool to talk about, and a little bump in Mirai, but I don't know what the reasons are for it, and Mirai's always bumping up. So this one's different, though. It's been a while since I look back, it's been a while since we saw like a doubling. It's not a ton of IP addresses going after this. So this tag is a double encoded URL. It's basically using URL encoding to do it twice so that it tries to get tries to get past web application firewalls and other defensive mechanisms or detections you might have out there. Does not get by our detections, though. We actually have a detection for this. And it's doubled the number of IP addresses, and the breadth of this is also like how many times they've been doing it and how much of our sensors saw it. Like, we've been seeing a bit more of this than usual. I have not had a chance to none of the team has, to dig into like what the actual new URLs are, because this is just looking for double encoding. We don't look for a specific web path. So I'm curious. I know other people on the team will be as well too. So keep an eye out for this one. If you're there and if you're seeing in your logs, give us a hint. Join up on our Slack. We'll be glad to talk to you about what we see on there. So just be watching for this, but this is the most interesting one I've seen so far. What's up, Kimber?
I think you mentioned Mirai is also up. I
Yeah.
think it's double encoded Mirai payloads.
Ooh, see, look at that. See, both a curiosity and a posit at the same time. I like this. This is great. I might actually be able to get through digging through all of the web paths that are doing this now as a result of it, or see some combinations.
I want to see them.
Do you have any hypotheses, Bob?
No, I don't. Like, I literally have zero. I'm going into this one completely with a like, I want to just read all the web paths that are out there, and see what's going on with this one. But Kimber's spidey sense is probably pretty good on this one. If we're seeing a slight bump in Mirai, and we have a couple IP addresses here, a couple nodes could be doing this, but I want to know what's it looking for? Is this because it's not they didn't trigger anything else to be that? There are some other tags we have that use double encoding as one of the things that get you to the path reversal. That usually what they're trying to do with this. They weren't bumped up. I did have a chance to quickly check the tags part of that. So I want to look at what the actual like web paths are for this one before I make any kind of hypotheses about it.
This is an interesting one. I love these. I love these double encoded like polyglot type things. So very cool.
Just as an aside, I should have put this up, but just because we're talking web paths, I don't know how to tell people to find this, so maybe I'll just put it. I'll put this in the show link notes. Hopefully, Ashley can get that up for us. I don't know if anyone knows this, but ChatGPT now has the ability to create Python notebooks on the fly, Jupyter notebooks on the fly with the Python kernel and run code, which means it's running in a Docker container, and it actually is. So while it isn't using double encoded URL stuff, you can do path reversal to get into the directories and stuff on the Docker container that you shouldn't be even in the sandbox. Figured I mentioned that since we're talking path reversal and stuff on there. So go hack ChatGPT, please. We should probably kill that before it takes over the planet. Wow. So Noise Fest. If you haven't heard about Noise Fest, you haven't been listening. And I cannot believe that we're less than a month away from the 10th of August. That's frightening. It's like we're middle through July. Wow, it just hit me that we're middle through July. If you don't know what Noise Fest is, Kimber, you want to tell us what Noise Fest is?
Noise Fest is our Yeah, I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say about Noise Fest yet, but what I'll leave you guys with is that it is our after summer camp Black Hat DEF Con meetup celebration of all things Grey Noise. So we want to have this. It's not only going to be some games, some general festivities. Come meet other people who are just hype on Grey Noise, but also we are going to have a CTF, and I'm really excited about it. You can hear
Yeah.
the excitement in my voice. I'm so hyped. We are going to have a CTF running that full week of Black Hat DEF CON Hacker Summer Camp shenanigans. I will say right now, PCAPs, where it didn't
PCAPs.
happen. Uh-huh. So do that Noise Fest email sign up. We'll be
Kimber, I feel
approving
like that should be
registrations.
one of your catchphrases. PCAPs or it didn't happen.
Oh, it absolutely
Oh
already
yeah.
is.
And I was looking at the Slack channel where all these notifications come in, or when I logged on this morning, and lots of people have already hit that particular link that's there. So as I'm going to keep reminding people, we were off for a couple weeks, so we're going to start processing that volume coming in. So get your signups in now if you haven't, so we can make sure we get you brought into that. And yeah, they all convinced me to give my data away. It's my data. It's not your data, Kimber. It's not your data, Andrew. It's my data. And we're giving data away. You're getting PCAPs, and you better do something cool with them. And I better see some cool stuff coming out of that from everybody.
It's going to be so cool.
I'm stoked that we're partnering with Sublime on this. They're such a cool team.
Yeah, actually, you can't see it, but
I got
the corner of the eye is poking out.
Yeah. If I do that, there you go.
You are covering up.
I am covering up Sublime.
So not only Grey Noise enthusiasts, but also Sublime enthusiasts.
I mean, their logo is showing, so it counts a little, right?
It's there. We love them.
I have to remember that I'm like an idiot inside the corner here. Also, Ashley, who's like producing this right behind the scenes right now. Look at that! Wow, I had no idea that Ashley had that ready to go. See, Ashley's amazing. Ashley's brilliant. Right there in Vegas right now. So go say hi, get swag. Talk to us about how you use it. Ask about how you can use it. Ashley's in Vegas now. The next thing is also in Vegas. And what I mentioned at the beginning, Vegas is on like literally melting right now. It does sort of this every year, but it's like on the ground, I believe it's between 160, 180 degrees Fahrenheit. That's second to third degree burns, depending on how long you touch the ground for. So please, anyone going to these horrible places on the planet, don't touch the ground. Like, wear clothing as much as possible.
Touch grass, not ground.
Yeah, touch grass. I don't even know if I would touch. I mean, who knows what's in the grass in Vegas? I mean, seriously. Anyway.
And also, if you're thinking of going outside and you're at Swamp Camp, just turn around and go talk to Ashley instead.
Yeah, it's true. This is like we got better stuff at the booth. It's nice and chill in there, and Ashley's great to talk to. Yeah. Ashley's great to talk to.
Yeah. Ashley's a gem.
100%.
So finally, at least the last slide we have on here. While we were off, Sissa Kev did have a bunch of releases. The last one even at the end of last week. Thanks so much for that, Todd. Todd Beardsley, a former workmate of mine, is now also at Sissa in this particular group. And so I told him he is now, like, whenever I have anything bad to say about Sissa and Kev, he gets the actual blame for it. So Todd, thanks for that. Appreciate you doing all that releases for everybody. And it's only been 4 days. There's probably at least 2 tags we're going to be seeing out of the 3 or 4 Kev releases that have been out in the past 2 weeks. Team is poking at them now. We're all getting our head back in the game. They're not life-threatening, life-ending ones. They're not a lot of these pieces of kit on the internet, so we're not as worried about this as it would be for some other things, but we'll have some coverage for those. So keep an eye out for that, and we've updated our tag dashboard, which we've linked to before, so just make sure you hit that there. So before we let everyone, I'm going to put myself back into human mode. Before we let everyone go, you have any parting words for our Stormwatch viewers, Andrew?
Oh yeah, actually, I forgot to mention. So I talked about sensors.
Yeah.
And we are rapidly approaching an early access program for sensors. So if you have interest in deploying a Grey Noise sensor,
send $20 bills to Andrew's.
Hey, how'd you know?
A self-addressed stamped envelope.
I am digging up I think it's sensors _early_access@greynoise.io. If you email that email with a haiku or a love letter to me, or your favorite thing about Bob, or literally anything else, we will put
A
you on
joke.
a joke would be great. I know
Yeah.
Ashley's always looking for more jokes for the noise letter.
Yeah.
But yeah, email censors_early_access@greynoise.io. And we'll put you on the list and start. We'll be rolling out access in batches based on what people are interested in, what features they're looking for, what they'll get the most value out of. We really need your feedback to make this as useful and as valuable as possible. So would love to have as many people on that list as possible. And would love to get people testing these out, telling us what sucks, what's great, what they want to be better, because that's how we get better.
Kimber, parting shots.
I think my parting wisdom is just go breathe some fresh air. And if you're in one of the regions that's incredibly smoky right now, that looks a little different for you.
Stay
Maybe get an
inside
air
and breathe
purifier.
your purified
Yeah.
air.
Yeah, seriously.
Just a nice deep breath all together.
I can dig it. All right. Well,
That's it. That's all I've
so
got.
Andrew, thank you for joining. Kimber, as always,
Yeah, thanks for having me.
thank you for hanging.
Yeah.
And Ashley, thank you for all the production work that you do. And we'll look forward to talking to everybody else again on the next Stormwatch. I like that.